Are you ready? Full out chats. Do you know what time it is?
F-U-L-L-O-U-T. We got control, we got the right, we got the vision, you lose the sight. We will never stop. What? We got the drop, yeah.
What time is it? Full out. We're live in 5, 6, 7, 8.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. It is a Wednesday night, which means we have another full out chat Coach's Corner edition. I am your host and head cheerleading coach at Purdue University. I am Steve Solberg. We're excited to have you guys here tonight to talk about a couple of things that we talked about last week that we wanted to go into. Our conversation about stunt and the recommendation for being an emerging sport just kind of took off, and next thing you knew, it was over an hour, and so we kind of had to cut it short. So we are going to talk about the USASF extending one more year to those affected that were not able to compete at Summit or Worlds, and so they get another year. And then the big buzzword, going on right now is culture. What is culture? How do you instill a culture? And what does it mean to us and things like that. And as everybody knows, yesterday the cheerleading world was hit with the news about the University of Kentucky. And so just want to say, to everybody that's affected, we're thinking about you and hope everybody's doing well. So let's bring in our panel, our coaches. First is Ben Schreiber, Ohio State. Ben, are you there?
I'm here, buddy. Good to see you tonight.
Good seeing you, bud. All right, Tony Nash, Indiana.
What's up, Steven? How are you, my friend?
Doing good, buddy. Doing good. Mark Coleman, Morehead State.
What's up, Steve? Excited to be here again.
And our special guest, a woman that is I would go crazy with this woman in my life. She's awesome. We wanted to get an all-star and a college perspective from somebody. So please welcome my assistant coach at Purdue, also a corner at Ice All-Stars, Nicole Smith. Nicole, how are you?
That introduction is what I need every morning to get back to the
I only speak the truth. Well, thank you all again for being here. I know it was obviously something that we wanted to get into that we weren't able to last week, which was the USASF did announce that they are going to give an extra year to any senior that was not able to compete at Summit or Worlds. For those of you that aren't really in the all-star world, which is why we brought Nicole in, because really all four, the rest of us are not either. But, that there are birthdays. You have to be within a certain birth date range to be able to compete level 6 for Summit or Worlds on certain teams. And so they did extend that, kind of like what the NCAA did with some spring athletes, where they gave seniors only an extra year to compete next year if departments choose to do that. So we'll let the expert here go first. Nicole, kind of when that news came out, what was your feeling about the USASF doing that? Obviously, like I said, you wear two hats. You are an all-star coach, an all-star owner, but also you are a college coach also, and know the value of, if you are capable of going to college, high school. So kind of what was your take on that?
Yeah, I think wearing the two hats has really helped over the last couple years, even before this rule came out. I'm a firm believer in college cheerleading. I'm a firm believer in you do your years and then you move on and you go on to that next stage of your life. So when this rule came out, of course, my first thought was the cons. One, we have open teams in the all-star world. So my thought is these kids have the opportunity on an open team if their all-star programs offer that. And my other thought is, my college coaching hat was, no, this discourages athletes to go cheer in college. I don't know if other colleges are exactly like ours, but our athletes are way too big of a schedule to be able to do both. So that was my first thought. Now, obviously, there's pros and cons of both. I do understand that a lot of seniors couldn't close that door with everything that they're going through. So the opportunity to relive it or, try to fill that void that they have right now, understandable. But at the end of the day, do I think that it's best for athletes to still continue and move on? Yeah. So I see both sides to it.
Yeah, Mark, I mean, it's been a while, as you said, but you used to be in the all-star world. You were on the USASF board for a while there and things like that. But now, obviously more you're in college, kind of your thoughts about, kids maybe making a decision to do all-stars one more year or putting off college for a year.
I agree with it. I think it's the right thing to do. I feel like kind of what Nicole touched on, the seniors this year have had so much taken away from them with COVID-19. And so I think giving them the opportunity, and I'm sure that there are seniors out there that will have the opportunity to come back to compete with their teams that are still going to go on to college or are still going to move on with their lives. But I think for the ones that, might have super seniored anyway, or, it just felt like they left something on the table and they wanted to go back, I don't have a major problem with it. And it pretty much mirrors what the NCAA did with the spring sports too, about giving seniors the opportunity, to come back. So I get it. I don't, we have quite a few all-star kids that do come to Morehead, but I think the ones that we're recruiting are ready for the next step. Like they competed in all-stars and they're ready to take on college cheerleading and have game day and do that stuff. And we still had quite a few people, and we have several athletes from prominent all-star programs that, do extremely well at Worlds. So it didn't keep them from, pursuing their education and coming to Morehead next year. So I haven't really seen any negative side effects from it. And I think it really leaves it up to the individual programs and the individual athletes and lets them have a choice. And I think that's the right thing to do in this case.
Ben?
Yeah, I think great comments that everyone has said so far. I would just make sure, I would not want someone to do another year of all-star if it just delays them even going to college, let alone being a college athlete, because I think that at that stage in your life, you got to make sure you're putting education first, and then obviously for student athletes, the academics is the first priority. At Ohio State, our schedule is pretty demanding in the fall and in the spring with our basketball teams typically making a run in the NCAA tournament, followed up with our spring game in April, and then being on semesters. Our semester is ending at the end of April, just in the beginning of May. So it really doesn't work with our schedule for people to do all-star as is. But, I think I understand the decision, and the NCAA is doing it. And it's not an unprecedented, announcement on that level. So I just, let alone someone being a cheerleader in college, I just wouldn't want it to impact them starting college or starting that next chapter of their life, just to make sure they are, still cheering another year.
Tony Nash.
Yes. First thing, is it weird to anyone else that Ben continues to talk about making the NCAA tournament every week? I feel like maybe that should just be a topic for your show, And then secondly, I absolutely disagree with everyone. I think that I'm just kidding. I don't go against the grain, but yeah, I get it. I understand. It's fantastic for them to have that opportunity that they missed out on. But at the same time, I do value them attending college. And I guess I kind of look at it a little bit differently, because now I feel like if they're maybe foregoing and doing their super senior year, maybe having the opportunity to work a little bit more, to earn some money to help with school, because I'm a parent and I know that's coming here in about 10 years. So I'm already starting to put money away for it. But also look at it from an athletic standpoint, being an athlete who played in college, played football in college, that, as a freshman coming in, your body's still not absolutely physically developed nor mentally developed at a full capacity. So I think coming in as a sophomore, has its advantages. They're going to be a little bit more mature, physically, emotionally, mentally. They'll be a little bit more prepared. But again, like everyone has mentioned, I think the education piece is what's important in that. There's very few of us that are able to make their living from cheerleading, and it's just not a thing that is common. So, getting an education and doing that and being able to get into the work world is crucial at the beginning.
I mean, what I've learned from my years of coaching college is ultimately college isn't for everybody. Like,
Right. That's right.
I think there is a huge pressure on everybody. I mean, I remember growing up, like it was college. That was the option. There was no talk of anything else. It was a 4-year college. That's where you're going. And I'm not knocking that. Obviously, it worked out fine for me. I'm very happy with the path I took, but definitely college is not for everybody. And for some people, maybe they would rather they're better to go in the work world right away and or to do all-stars on the side and get that one more year. I mean, that's great too. I have nothing against that, but I completely agree with everybody in regards to, if as long as you're not postponing the ultimate goal of going to college, because if you take time off, anybody who takes a year off or two and says I'll come back, they usually don't.
Yeah, that's right.
They will not. They will not. They get comfortable. They start making a little bit of money, and they will not go back to college or start college. And so I do think it's important that if that is the goal for these athletes to go to college, to do it immediately. Don't take that gap year. There are definitely exceptions to the rule, but the rule usually is like you take that gap year and you don't end up going to college at all.
Well, I think it matters between male and female athletes. Male athletes reach their physical prowess at age 24, 25. Female athletes reached it at 14 or 15. So taking a gap year for a female athlete is totally different than for a male athlete.
It is.
So
I haven't peaked yet, Mark. I'm still on my way up, baby.
I know. Well, I just started shaving a few years ago, so my peak was a little bit later. So.
No, but I mean, but you're right, absolutely. That males and females reach their physical peak at different ages. I mean, that's 100% true. Absolutely.
I would be interested to see the number of athletes that do take advantage of this rule. I have a feeling that it's only going to be those teams that were expected to win. I think that, the people that are placed in top 3 at Worlds, that might be the only, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a championship person. Why would you come back and risk college?
Right. And Nicole, I have a question for you because as an all-star coach and owner, I think that's very interesting. Do you feel like some of these premier, obviously with ice and, all these like premier gyms and World Cup and Stingrays and chair, how many ever there are, but do you feel like those coaches are going to persuade people to stay, or do you feel like ask them to?
I like to say that, most of us do what's best for the kids.
Right.
It didn't even cross our minds to reach out to our seniors, asking them to stay another year, even with as talented as they are. We, realize that moving on, doing college is what their plans are. Maybe if we had an athlete that we knew was going to stay home and not, we probably would, but it didn't even cross our minds. But I do think that might be, being a competitive coach, I guess I can say, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I agree. I just hope that, parents and coaches and kids, I think this year, especially with this option, I think that all-star coaches are going to have a bigger role, I guess, maybe in these kids' future. Because ultimately, if these kids are thinking about college, like they literally have maybe passed. You know what I mean? Like deadlines have passed. People need to know what they're doing. The deposits have to go in. This is obviously assuming campuses open up, which as of right now, campuses seem like mostly they are. They're planning on opening up. So, the role of a coach, I think, this year especially could be a little bit more important than other years.
Well, I think the reason that I asked that, because it's very interesting to me, and it doesn't happen a lot, but I distinctly remember every year that I'm having to deal with one or two people for sure during tryouts when everything's normal, is that these kids are on Worlds teams and they're like, we're going to another competition for a bid, and sorry, I can't come to your tryouts. Can I do a video? And so that's why I guess I ask when, I'm so far removed from the all-star world. I truthfully, I know Nicole and, locally here, but I just don't know what the mindset's going to be. If it's going to be when, we got to win, and these seniors were like stars on our team. And so we need them. That helps us. I just don't know.
I do think I mean, from our experience, I think I wear, like we said, I wear two hats. So I've seen the all-star coaches that have been, hey, they can't make it to tryouts, period. And, you know, we obviously work with everybody because there's certain athletes that we want. But on our side, when I have athletes that, you know, a college thing is important to them, I think it's because I wear the college hat. I realize it's important for them to get in front of the college coach. So
Yeah.
Exceptions. You know, we do ask our athletes at the beginning of the year, let us know when you're going to these schools, let us know when your tryouts are, and we try to work it out. But I do think that, like I said, competitive coaches, they probably don't care. I'm not going to say they don't care, but they got.
But it's their livelihood.
Yeah.
I understand it from that perspective for sure.
Yeah, I do too. I just think, you know, like I said, I like to sit and think that we all have the put the kids first and do what's best for the kids. I don't think everyone does, but I like to live in my bubble and think everyone does.
I agree. I think that if numbers were taken of people that actually took advantage of it, I think it's not going to be that a lot. I don't think it's going to be too. I would be interested to know what those numbers are, though, of number of kids that took advantage of this rule change that actually end up competing at Worlds and or Summit. I think that'd be very interesting.
I mean, just in our location, we had 2 girls that planned on super senioring because they were going to local schools, and we offer an open team. So that didn't affect, but we didn't. Our athletes chose to move on.
You know, one thing that might be a correlation, Steve, is you're looking kind of to see what the numbers are. You know, on a recent head coaches meeting at Ohio State, they talked about, you know, all the spring sports of how many athletes decided to come back for that next year. I think of all the spring sports that Ohio State has, I think the number was less than 40. So it was a pretty small amount, and they had, you know, listed a lot. We're still planning on graduating or either going to grad school and maybe work, you know, being an athlete one more time, or even accepting a job. I
mean, I know, like, schools like Ohio State have been very supportive of it. I know that other schools have said, sorry, like we're not doing this at all. You know, from the NCAA standpoint. But yeah, I mean, in regards to, you know, the gyms and everything, I think that would, I mean, I agree with that. They should have made that decision to give those kids that one last opportunity if that's what's best for them and that's something that they can do. When the NCAA made that statement, I agree with the USASF making that statement also. Well, we're going into subject 2, Nicole, if you want to stick with us for about 10 more minutes before you got to go. I know this was
I have one more comment on this. One thing I want to talk about is keeping all these athletes. You know, let's just say Purdue cheerleading. We decided to keep 3 seniors that, you know, got another. I know we're not NCAA, but what about the incoming freshmen that aren't going to make the team because we decided to? I mean, that's another thought. Is this is a trickle down effect. So if we're not replacing 5 athletes on a world team, that's 5 athletes that aren't going to make the team. So that's kind of another thing that I think we're kind of overlooking is what about all those athletes that are busting their tush to get on the team?
Agree.
Just a thought.
No, I didn't even think about that from an all-star perspective. I didn't even think about that. You know, you probably have that girl that's been on your, you know, well, now level 5, but restricted 5 team for years and like is probably ready. But if you have this girl that decides to super senior, maybe she doesn't get her opportunity. I get that. I mean, I didn't even think about that from an all-star perspective. So I know that this was a subject that Ben was very looking forward to, but I know it's been the buzzword kind of in sports lately, you know, culture. You know, I do get asked every once in a while, like, what is the culture that you want, or what is the culture of your team? And I think that it's definitely a big buzzword in athletics and in sports and from people. And so, you know, I know Nicole you only have about 4 minutes. We have to head out. So, I mean, when it comes to like culture, I mean, again, you wear 2 hats. You have like the gym hat, where that's a totally different mindset of what a culture is for a gym. And obviously, you know, predominantly working with the all-girl program here at Purdue. Kind of, you know, what's your take on culture and your kind of take on that whole buzzword right now going around in sports?
I think it's completely different. I mean, I think, Steve, you can attest to when I'm at Purdue, I'm wearing a completely different culture hat than what I do. I mean, one, just because minors versus adults. But I think culture is 100% why teams are successful or why teams fail. As a coach, it's hard on the all-star side to create a culture, because it's not just creating a culture with the team. You have parents, obviously if you have a 12-year-old, they don't think for themselves yet. So you have to create a culture with the parent dynamic. You have to create a culture with a lot of different aspects than just the team itself. So it has its own challenges. But I do think the successful teams that I've had in the past as a coach or as an athlete has been directly because of the culture that was created.
I know that you've obviously been from your experience. I mean, you were at Morehead, you were at Wichita, now at IU, and then also with USA, the Team USA teams. So I mean, different cultures, different mindsets. What's your experience been in terms of being a coach and like instilling a type of culture with your teams?
It's interesting. I definitely agree with Nicole. I think it's different everywhere. I mean, and I think that the culture that I try to install in my athletes at Indiana was different than Morehead, was different than Wichita State. It just really is based upon a team. But I really think that, to me, culture is just kind of a way of life. I'm trying to give you, a belief system on how you're going to be able to carry yourself in the future. I'm going to try to install, all kinds of different principles in your life that you can lean on as you go. So I do think that it's really kind of, the way that I install an attitude or a mindset within the program that they can carry on with them later. So, I think culture is very difficult to navigate just because, people have to buy into the system. And when you get, 80%, 90% to buy in, you still have that 10% that they don't quite get it, that makes that 80 or 90% go down to 40 or 50%. And so it just causes dysfunction amongst the team. So, like I told you when we did our show, Steve, when I first got here, Julie runs a very, very good program at Indiana. It's the reason I came here. But, just the competitive culture had to change. And I was so used to Morehead and Mark Nose and with Myron and just the culture there of the traditions. And, it's not just about competition. Everyone thinks it's about just competition, and it's not. But, trying to turn that culture at IU to make them understand that this is not just about winning a championship like a UCA College Nationals. This is about winning in life. And so, that's what culture is to me. I think there's no two the same.
Mm-hmm. Mark.
Well, knowing that we were going to be talking about this, the first thing that came to my mind is, I think culture is something that we all work on every single day, but it's not a word that we say a lot. I don't talk to my teams daily about culture, but we talk about the mindset, or we talk about the repetitive behaviors and the characteristics and the personal traits to hone to be successful. And like Tony said, I try to talk to them from the standpoint is yes, we are going to do these things to be successful in cheerleading, but these are also going to make you successful if you're a nurse or a teacher or a parent, and to be successful in all avenues of their life. And so, at Morehead, obviously we have a very competitive culture, one that's very focused on but it's very competitive, but it's also focused on family. And like Tony mentioned, we're very proud of our winning tradition. We're very proud of the success that we have, but that has all been accomplished because we have teams that have come together and formed a family that bring the best out of each other and support each other and push each other. And together, as teams and as a huge family, they're able to accomplish these things and win national championships and do things that have never been done before. And and that's really what makes it special, because we have a fairly large program, and there's only 16 people on co-ed that compete every year, and there's only 20 girls on all girl that actually get the opportunity to compete. But my role as a coach, I still need to make it a worthwhile venture for all of them. And I tell them when I recruit them that this is a 4 or 5 year commitment on my behalf. people that, if you look at our program, like they don't always last that long in the program. And a lot of it is related to whether if they get to compete or not. But I try to tell them that, I want to invest in you, and I want you to invest in this program. And the longer you're in, the more you're going to get out of it. And so I think, culture it's very, very important. I think it's one of the biggest selling points at Morehead. That's when I talk to recruits and I try to, ask their questions. They always, I want to get better with my skills. And, they want to compete and they want to win. But what I hear more and more is I want to be the best athlete that I can be. And I want to be the best cheerleader that I can be. And I want to, I want to learn new skills and I want to be pushed. And I truly think that Morehead has a really unique culture and a really unique environment that is unlike anybody else's. And those are things that we can offer. We've talked about it before. And, we don't have 80,000, 100,000 people game day. We don't have huge Division 1A sports, but what we do have is 64 to 70 people every year that are hyper driven, super motivated, and focused on, one goal and improving their skills, but also helping to continue on the traditions. And it's very special. So I love our culture at Morehead. It's pretty incredible.
Ben, I know this was a subject that you're really looking forward to talking about, in terms of culture. Again, you've also been at multiple programs, Delaware, and then taking over your alma mater at Ohio State. So kind of talk about, what does culture mean to you and how do you instill it at your program?
Yeah, there's a lot of things I could say about culture. And when I start talking too long, Steve, feel free to mute me. But, when I first started coaching, as we talked in our one-on-one chat, I just jumped right in the position. I didn't have the opportunity to be an assistant coach, in a program. I was kind of, put right into it. In those first couple of years at Delaware, I really just tried to, keep my head above water, figure out what was going on, understand the administrative things. And then to me, when it got to competition, it was just, let's just try to do our best and hit and try to win. As I, matured in my career and learned more, I really started trying to invest in myself and learning about culture, as I'd heard a lot of things about that. And, I think that, as Tony said, the culture that I probably tried to instill my third, fourth, and fifth year at Delaware is different than when I came and started at Ohio State. And the culture that we've kind of built up over the last 3 years is, something that has been successful, but we're even going to try to push it, to another level next year. There's a quote that I like that I just love about culture because, it's this buzzword, as you mentioned, but there's so many, it's a word that's just hard to define. But I think there's an author, motivational speaker named John Gordon. If you've read any of his books, if you haven't, I really encourage anyone to check him out. But he defines culture as culture drives expectations and beliefs. Expectations and beliefs drive behavior. Behavior drives habits. Habits create the future. And it all starts with culture. So I think wherever you're at, you can be someone that can instill culture. You don't have to be a head coach. You don't have to be a manager. You don't have to be a captain. You could be a first year and still try to, bring something to a program's culture, to a team's culture, to a business culture. There's a lot of things, that you can do with it. But one of the big points that I'd like to make is I think culture derives from leadership. I think, Tony, you said something and, that people coming in and buying into a program. And I disagree with that a little bit. I think that, the first thing that people need to buy in is to, the leader. I think that you're going to determine if you have the right people. And then you're going to determine if there's people that, are not buying into the leader. And, again, John Gordon wrote a fantastic book called The Energy Bus. That's something that our program has read several times and that we've taken a semester to, break down. And it talks about getting the right people on your bus and getting the wrong people off your bus, even before maybe where that bus is going. So, I think that leadership is a key component, to starting that and making sure that you have the right people, and then you can start heading in the right direction.
I do think that, Ben, not necessarily a program, it's buying into a mindset. And even a program can be the same, but to me, that starts at the top. So when, I go to cheer for at Morehead State, that starts when I meet Mark Coleman. That starts when he tells me about the program and the expectation of what he's going to help me accomplish while I'm there. And so I think that is what I'm meaning, not necessarily just the program itself is the culture, because I think that your culture has to change continually.
Yes.
If your culture doesn't change, you're not getting better. And
I agree.
I think that's super important for everyone to remember.
One thing that everyone kind of mentioned as they talked about culture was, even obviously you guys are at tremendously successful programs as it relates to nationals, but you've both said your culture is not just about winning. It's about people. Woody Hayes, a famous football coach at Ohio State, and this quote is plastered all over the athletic buildings, is you win with people. And I think that is just a quote that, we try to live every day is how can we make the people in our programs better individuals, better athletes, and improving their overall skill set, not just their athletic skill set. Another great quote from John Gordon, and then I'll stop talking about John Gordon, is focus on the root, not the fruit. If you just focus on the fruit, there you go. Great.
Tony's got him. Mm-hmm.
But if you're focusing just on the fruit, just on the results, you're kind of always just attacking that low hanging fruit. But if you're focusing on the root, building those people up, you're always going to have fruit there. So that's something that I know me and my assistant Siobhan St. John try to work on every day. Is how can we build upon the future of these athletes? And one way to measure that is obviously your success at nationals, but then also before they go into the real world, how prepared are they? And we're excited to say that in the first 6 years, we've had 100% graduation rate. Everyone that stuck with the program has either graduated or moved on to grad school or gotten a job right away. And that's something that we preach along the way to just kind of help them get ready. So, there's a lot of things about culture that are special. I think it's a strong winning culture is the backbone of any program. There's a lot of little things, that you can break down with what a successful culture is, what a unsuccessful culture is. And like I said before, I think it stems from leadership. I think successful cultures can handle adversity. And I think, at least one of my definitions is a successful culture, kind of goes hand in hand with integrity. I think that, a lot of coaches right now are going to see how strong their culture is when their student athletes come back. Are the student athletes that maybe you're talking to every week, every couple of days on a Zoom meeting, are they doing their workouts? Are they staying in shape? For new team members, are they working on the school's traditions, the school's material, to get ready for game day? Are they, kind of doing the mental work along with the physical work that they can do to prepare for the season? Because, it's a culture that, the accountability within that culture that is going to show when we all do get back, hopefully soon from COVID-19.
I mean, I'm a firm believer that, culture is, it comes from the leader. Like as coaches, we basically are instilling what we want, but when all's said and done, it's the athletes that absolutely make it happen. I mean, the athletes are the ones that keep the culture. The athletes are the ones that hold each other accountable for that culture. And what is that culture? And, culture can change every year. I think it changes your athletes. I think it can change over time. I think that importance changes over time. I think as a program grows, as you get either more skilled or you get more competitive, or as a coaching staff, you get older, you learn more, you learn from your mistakes, you learn to pick the right battles and not pick every battle, and things like that. And those are that to me is also part of culture, and I think that as a team, you have your culture, but also as a coaching staff, you have your culture. And there's a culture to instill overall in any program. And I 100% agree about it. Culture creates champions. You got to have some sort of culture that people really buy into. And if they really, really buy into it, it really forces people to rally for each other, to really support each other. And next thing you know, as a coach, you're not doing anything. they're doing the work for you. As I say every year at nationals, my goal is to get them ready, and then they're in control. They're behind the driver's wheel, and I just sit in the back seat and I'm along for the ride, which is scary sometimes, but that's the goal. They're in control. They should be in control. It's their experience ultimately. It's their 4 to 5 years or whatever it is. And as people really get going, it creates this like centrifugal force where everybody comes to the middle, comes together, and then once they come together, next thing you know, the work is done for you. You don't have to do anything more. The kids have done the work for you, and that's beautiful when you know that the work is done, and then all they have to do is do it. They're just doing what they know what they've done. And it's beautiful. But also as a coaching staff, like I said, I think coaching staffs have their own culture, that head coach, but then also your assistants or your volunteers or alumni can, come in and really have a really good force in your culture and to bring things up. And so culture, absolutely. I think those are some great books. I have not read The Energy Bus, but I've heard it's awesome.
It's fantastic.
Really, really good. Yeah. This is from Ryan Martin, one of our awesome fans who watches us all the time. She ditto for you, retweets you, Ben. She absolutely loves Energy Bus. That's a great book. So thank you for watching, Ryan. Appreciate it as always. In regards to, going forward, I agree. Like, what have you guys been doing in terms of, I guess, trying to create some sort of unity or culture with your teams, considering like we literally haven't seen each other in 2.5 months? I'll let Mark go first on this one.
Well, I think one of the things, we've been trying to stay connected. A lot of the ice-breaking things and meeting the team are happening virtually, kind of like this. And, the 4 of us getting together, or when we have our special guests, we all know each other previously. So it's old hat for us to kind of talk and have conversations and talk about our livelihoods and our passions. But, it's a little bit more challenging when you've got, 32 people that have never been in a room together. And so, what I've been trying to do with our weekly Zoom meetings is just, do some games and some, silly icebreaker things to, let them kind of show their personality and start to share, who they are, so that when we finally get back on campus, hopefully, in August or so, that it'll be that they'll have already started to gel a little bit. Many of them have already picked who their roommates are going to be based off of, I guess, the Zoom meetings and communicating in our group chats. So, just trying to get them as close as we can virtually until we can actually get there is the goal for me. And so that we can just try to start the process of them congealing as a team. But
sorry, go ahead. Mark.
Well, I was just going to say that, there's not a certain pathology to like making a team. So you just have to work. And I think as coaches, I heard Pat Riley said this about his Miami Heat NBA national championship team or world champion team, that, as coaches, sometimes we'll just kind of throw things up on the wall and see what sticks. And then then we'll utilize those. They'll kind of be in our utility belt for the next year, kind of going along what you were saying about learning as we go along, because, every team's different. Every team has different personalities and different leaders. And so, we have to kind of keep it fresh. If you have seniors that have seen all of our bag of tricks, then, they get kind of bored. So we got to try new things. But sometimes those, you'll do something hoping it like, I think they'll think it's cool. And they're like, no, you're old and you're not cool at all. So that wasn't something that we have as fun. But then sometimes you'll randomly do something, because I have a unique thing with 2 teams. Like I did something with my all-girl team a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was okay. But apparently they liked it enough that they told the co-ed team about it. And the co-ed team was like, hey, we got to do that too. We're going to do the same thing that you did with all girl. And I was like, hey, that was cool, because, apparently it was a bigger hit with them than I thought. And, and it's also hard to tell, like when you're in a room, you can tell when you're losing your crowd or when you've got a captive audience. But when we're on, virtual screens and they're all really small and there's two pages of a Zoom, you can't really tell is like, are they listening to me? Are they getting glassy eyed? Am I rambling too long? So, I'm really looking forward to getting them all back in a room together. But, in the meantime, we're making the best of it.
Tony, what have you guys been doing? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Mark, you just made a good point that, communication is key. But a problem, with that is making sure that we're communicating, they're, taking in the information, the content, but that they're, staying focused on it. I think sometimes though it's, early on in my career, I know that communication sometimes was not one of my strongest points. And, it's like any kind of relationship, whether it's a intimate relationship, whether it's a coach to coach relationship, coach to athlete relationship, just a friendship, if there's not communication, it's real easy for, negative things to kind of fill that space or take that space. So, I think communicating, and what I've even heard so many times is it's better to over communicate than under communicate. I'd rather tell someone something so many times till they're sick of hearing it, but maybe it's that time that they can actually start applying it. And I think the tricky thing right now is doing it, with via Zoom meetings and not overloading them with Zoom meetings. And hopefully as we get closer, I want to get, me personally on a more consistent schedule as we get closer to the season, but because you don't want to overwhelm them, in any kind of team or group. So that's kind of the fine juggling act right now of, conveying the information, but not overloading as well.
One thing before Tony talks, I just want to say, I think communication is huge, but timely communication. It's I think being proactive, and this is something that I struggle with. Juggling multiple jobs, multiple teams, multiple kids. And just it's so easy to be like, well, I've tried to set up like bi-weekly, monthly meetings with my leaders to stay in the loop, to kind of so we could head off problems, sometimes before they happen. But I know sometimes I'll get in a hurry, or my wife calls, hey, hurry home for dinner, and I'm like, hey, we'll just meet later, and I just kind of put it off. But that's one thing that this year that I'm really going to try to be more proactive about is communication, but timely communication I think is really important.
Tony, what have you guys been doing in Indiana in terms of trying to create, bonding, some culture, trying to get, anything you guys have been doing, any best practices?
Everything that's been said has been fantastic, and I'm really thankful that we're kind of on the beginning phase of that, because there hasn't been a ton of communication with our team or contact with our team. We've done some things. We just want to have information for them before it becomes where I start getting them on these calls all the time. But I'm excited. We're going to start those up next week, and me and the other coaches have really been talking about different ways to challenge them over the next couple months, knowing that we're not going to see them until we can get back on campus. But I think really for me, just to try to get them prepared for a culture, I just wanted to explain to them expectations, and I want them to understand what they're going to go through. I want to lay it out for them. I want to be upfront. You know what? Some of you are going to love this process. Some of you are going to be confused by this process. Some of you are probably not going to like this process. It's going to be something different than what you're used to. So, I think that it's just important. I think Mark hit it on the head there with communication, letting them know what the expectation is, what the beginning is, what the middle is, what the outcome is, and it will help define that. That way they're prepared and ready to come in and eager to work. So, I think that's been, something that for us, we haven't had a lot of meetings yet. And so I just want to be able to, make sure that I have good and accurate and up-to-date information, because, everything is about questions right now, because we don't know what's happening and everything's so unknown. So, but yeah, I think what the guys have said has been fantastic. And I agree. I think that, that is a good start to building your team and what they're going to be for you that current year.
Yeah, I think that, when you're thinking about trying to virtually bring a team together, it's just really tough. And before I get into that, I would just need to do a shout out to my sponsor. I can't believe I'm a sponsor. That's awesome. Again, just thank you to Cheer Chalk. Cheer Chalk is a great product to put on your hands to help with your grips, especially when you're sweating or it's just really warm outside. It's a great product. My guys, again, a couple of my guys have used it for open gyms. I've really enjoyed the product. It's made in the USA. It's antibacterial. Dries in seconds. It will not go onto your uniform. And there is a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you try it for 30 days, you absolutely did not like the product, send it back. You can get your money back. So again, if you go to cheerchalk.us, put in the discount code FULLOUT10. You will get an additional 10% off the $5 special, $5 off special they already have going. So again, cheerchalk.us and put in the discount code FULLOUT10. And we do have another Full Out chat tomorrow. One of my first, actually, I think my first athlete ever, in terms of just athlete only, Anna, used to be Anna Ritchie, now Anna Fack. She was on the U.S. All-Girl team, also a former BYU cheerleader and a UCA college staffer. She will be on Instagram Live with me tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern, hear her story. And now she travels the world with her husband and does like these awesome photography and travels the world and has this awesome life for her right now. So again, tomorrow on Instagram, Full Out Chats with Anna Fack from USA All-Girl, BYU Cheer, and UCA college staff. So to try to create this whole culture over virtual has been tough. Something that I'm getting good feedback on is just, the virtual workouts in terms of kids getting on Zoom, even though it's on Zoom and it's at least they're together in some way, shape, or form. They at least know who's there, which has helped. But also we created these mini groups, these smaller groups of 7 to 9. And they get together. A senior gets put in charge every week, and then they get together. I put out the assignment every week, and then they're teaching the rookies and also holding each other accountable on learning the material to get all the game day material learned. So, that's really helped. I already got really good feedback. The girls really have enjoyed in terms of like getting to know each other, but also learning the material. So when we are able to get back in person, we will be able to hopefully not have to spend a whole weekend on material. We can get into getting back in shape, getting into stunting, and getting into what we call the fun stuff. But obviously, hopefully they know the material, but I know my girls and guys have really enjoyed that. They've been using Zoom and just FaceTime groups and stuff like that to be able to communicate with each other, teach each other material. I sent them a big Dropbox file with all of our band music, all the fight song music and everything. So they have that. But of course, every week somebody says, I don't have the music. And then I tell them, well, did you open up the Dropbox link? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, excellent. Do you guys that ever happen to you? You send an email and they don't open it or they don't read it? Yeah. I know.
Your engineers at Purdue can't use Dropbox?
Apparently not. I have 4 freshman females coming in who are engineering majors this year.
Awesome.
I'm really impressed by that. That was really cool. So I thought they're way smarter than me, and hopefully they become really good alumni and they make donations in the near future. That'd be great. So.
Or at least sponsors for Coach's Corner.
Yes, I need some sponsors. Well, we have a couple extra minutes here, and I actually had this as a kind of a fun question for if we ever had about 10 minutes to go here. And so I think this will be a good one for all of us is, what's your biggest pet peeve in coaching? Biggest pet peeve. I'll let you guys think about that. I'll go first because I already kind of mentioned it. The kids make fun of me all the time because whenever somebody asks a question, 9 times out of 10, they'll yell at them, read the email. Read the email. And I get so much flack because I will send them a book of everything, but the point is it's there. And if you read it, 99% of the time, I guarantee you, I have all the information that you need for that day or that weekend. And I still get text messages, or still people are like, what do we wear? Where are we supposed to be? What time? And like I said, 9 times out of 10, somebody will be like, did you read the email? Did you read the email? Biggest pet peeve. So that is a life lesson I'm going to give everybody right now is read emails from your boss. Make sure you use email. I know like a lot of today's generation do not like using email. Use it. Read your emails. Read them thoroughly.
Can you not Snapchat? Can you not Snapchat your boss?
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna TikTok. I'm gonna TikTok you a dance, and here we go. Tony Nash, what is your biggest pet peeve in cheer or coaching?
I don't know if it's a good question for me because but I would probably, I'll just say in coaching is when I'm working with a team and they don't make eye contact with you. Yeah. That's something that I demand, and I want to be able to see if it's deer in headlights or if it's someone processing the information. I think that they have to they have to understand. But that's something that I try to install in my son and daughter now at a young age, that you look at people in the eyes when you talk, and yes ma'am, yes sir, no ma'am, no sir, shake their hand, whatever it may be, just that respect factor. And I'm giving you information that's helping you, so don't discard it.
Yeah, that's a huge one. I agree with that one. A lost art also. I agree with you, Tony. Mark Coleman, your biggest pet peeve as a coach?
Well, since we're cheer coaches, the first thing that came to mind was like sloppy motions, broken wrists. Like, it's just like
in the state of Kentucky.
That's a wide Ivy.
I don't like that either. Yeah, but it's like, especially if they're soft, they're doing this difficult elite skill, and then they do a sloppy motion, or their wrists are broken, and I'm like, I know they get sick of me telling them, but I'm like, fix your wrist. And they're like, they will have done a double up or something crazy, and they're like, well, didn't the double up good? I'm like, I can't look at it because I'm looking at your broken wrist. I'm like, that's like the first thing you should have learned when you became a cheerleader, was how to do a proper IV. I mean, we're pretty fortunate at UCA that we have about 4 motions, like a T and a high V and a punch, and maybe variations of those, but we don't get too crazy with it. I'm like, at least do the cherry on top of the sundae with the wrist. So that's probably like my cheer related, like coaching, rolling eyes, like
rolling eyes. Yep.
Steve, yeah. I feel that you need the come on, man, from Sunday morning, the NFL show. I need you to get that voiceover for next week. But I think my biggest pet peeve is when I have my team in, and if any of them are watching, remember this. You're explaining kind of like the next drill to do at practice, or the next thing that we're going to work on, and then they might spread back out in their small groups. And I've already explained it, but they might have additional questions, and they're asking each other, and none of them have ever done it. When instead of just asking me who's done it, or is making it up, or is the person that is creating the moment, but they're afraid to ask that question sometimes. Instead of just, what did he say? Just ask the question. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I do think, though, kind of piggyback off what you said, Steve, to make sure that you're listening when the instructions are given, or that you're not asking a question where you can find the answer, if it's in an email, or if it's in a document that's given at the beginning of the year, or some kind of communication method like a group me or teamwork, something like that. So those would probably be my biggest pet peeves right now.
Yeah, you guys literally probably hit all of mine. Is eye rolling or turning your back. I remember one time a kid turned their back on me as I was talking to them, and that was a bad idea. They should not have turned their back on me. It's just to any athletes that are there watching, it really is just a respect thing. Just to I grew up military. My dad was Army. My mom came from a very strict South Korean family where you respect your elders. That's a big thing. If you ever go to South Korea or go to Asian countries, like respecting your elders, no matter what, it doesn't matter what they accomplished. You respect them because they're older than you, and that is it. Like, you just don't even, you do not disrespect your elders.
Steve, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I'm gonna forget it. It's so funny that you said that, because you were talking to Louis on Full Out Chats about being in South Korea with UK and as the U.S. national team, and Jomo and I, it was amazing, and Leroy, we were amazed that we would be in places for food, and like all the elders, like they would just walk up and just cut right in front of you and just and it's like they were expecting you to, like, you wouldn't say anything. I'm like, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Go ahead. But respect your elders was huge there in South Korea for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge thing. Respect your elders, show, respect authority. And then obviously with my dad being Army, I mean, you respect authority. I mean, it's just, there's no questions. You just do what you're told and just respect it. Yeah. I mean, but I think that a lot of, as athletes get older, I think they kind of realize those lessons, hopefully, and take that to the real world, because that is so true about just, how businesses run nowadays. So, well, gentlemen, we've almost hit the 1 hour mark. So is there any last comments you'd like to make in regards to, we'll go roundtable real quick in terms of any discussions we had in terms of either the USASF or, just culture or just, coaching in general. I'll start with you, Ben Schreiber.
I knew you were going to pick me first. No, I think, I would just kind of go back to the culture thing that, for coaches, for business leaders, for teachers, for athletes, it's to, as a culture, as we've all kind of said, a culture is always kind of changing, but I think don't be afraid to, do things to strengthen the culture. A big thing is accountability. And, I think whether team members need to hold each other accountable, need to hold the coaches accountable, and same thing from the coaches to the athletes, or, business leaders and teachers and students, but always kind of strive to see how you can, make a situation better, make a program stronger. And I think that's what helps take programs to the next level. Don't just wait for things to be told to you. Like, be proactive, think outside the box a little bit, think about how you can strengthen something and make it better.
Tony Nash.
Yeah, I just want to, touch on the super senior thing, and I know that Nicole's also given us some insight there, and I do agree with USASF being extending that senior age, as with USA Cheer, and the ICU was able to extend the age for the junior divisions so they can, obviously, since it was all taken away from them this year. So I didn't want to downplay saying that, I don't think that it's important for them to do their super senior year. I think that, whatever choice you make, you just need to, it's obviously dependent upon your specific situation, but, it's important for you to understand that if you're wanting to go to college, you need to really think serious about that. And if that's going to be in the best interest for you in your career in college, because you only really get that, for potentially 5 years if you want. But so, yeah.
Mark Coleman.
I was typing in the chat. The only thing that there's a couple of things that I wanted to touch on about culture that I didn't. One of them kind of dawned on me after Tony spoke, and it was about culture changing and adapting. I think kids are changing, the generations, and so with anything, if our coaching techniques, if our cheerleading skills techniques are stagnant and not changing, then we're eventually, going to become obsolete. And so I think the culture needs to change and adapt with the types of athletes that you have. And the other thing was just one of the things when I came to Morehead, I think there's differences in culture based off the coaches. And I think someone else mentioned that, I stepped into some very big shoes in Morehead State University. And, even though there's these legendary coaches that came before me, Tony being one of them, I'm not going to be Tony Nash. I'm not going to be Bill Mayo. I'm not going to be Myron Doan. And so I can't, I can emulate, I can respect different characteristics that each of those coaches had, and, try to emulate certain characteristics, but, I'm a totally different person than all those coaches. And so I don't want to be, as amazing as each of those coaches were, I don't want to be a discount version of Tony Nash or a discount version of Myron Doan. I can only be the best version of Mark Coleman that I can be. And so the culture obviously had to change some when I got to Morehead. So that was just the one other thing I wanted to point out.
Ben, I know you had one more thing you want to bring up real quick.
Yeah, so obviously we haven't seen our teams it's been over 2 months now, and I just had a team member text me about what he thought my biggest pet peeve was going to be, and I can't believe I forgot to say this. So shout out to Bryden Penhorwood, watching in Bell Fountain, Ohio right now. But a big pet peeve of mine at practice is wearing the correct socks.
Oh.
And if you're on the Ohio State team and you come to practice and you're not wearing ankle-high white socks, you're going to be in trouble. And They get issued 6 pairs of white ankle socks at the beginning of every year, and they all hate them. They all want to wear black socks, and that's not us. It's short white ankle socks. And Bryden, I know you're watching, is probably one of the biggest culprits. I've had kids take off their socks and just wear shoes because they brought the wrong socks. So white ankle socks would also be one of my biggest pet peeves.
I love you said that because same thing. Every year, my kids get a 6-pack of white socks and a 6-pack of black socks, and they're told which ones to wear, but they'll still wear like a white sock with like a green thing on the top of it. And I'm like, whoa. Where are your white socks that were given to you that are Nike, our sponsor, people who sponsor us? Why are you not wearing this? I 100% agree with that. Oh my goodness. Before we go though, I do need to call out Tony Nash on something.
Oh.
I am not happy about this. We chatted about it a little bit yesterday. So I had my full out chat with Lori Harris, and it was awesome. It was great. Love her. Great conversation. And she brings up that she was in a video game. She was in the cheerleading Wii video game. And I have had Tony and Josh McCurdy in full out chats, but neither of them told me that they were involved in making the thing. I asked Tony Nash. He's in the Wii cheerleading video game. I would love to see Tony. Tony, why did you not bring this up in our full out chat that you were involved in making the Wii cheerleading video game?
Well, Steve, as you can see by your picture there, I don't really tell you that I've dressed in spandex onesie. It was funny. I was telling Steve yesterday that, Louis was telling us about this opportunity. We were out in California, and Josh and I were like, or Louis said, yeah, you should come do this video game. They're going to film. You're going to be the characters in it. So I'm like, well, that's weird. And she's like, it'll be real easy. You'll do like chairs and things like that. Toss the hands, maybe some extensions. And I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. So we went there, and it was really cool set. It was like a warehouse, but it looked like it had like roll bar cages all around, and this huge screen, like green screen behind us. And so we'd walk out there, and the cameras would come on, and then they would make our character. And so I was a cartoon character on there, so I was so distracted the whole time, kept looking back to see what I looked like. I'm like, can you make me skinnier? And they're like, yeah. So then they started with the stunts, and they're like, okay, can we do, Louis said we need to do some harder stunts. And I'm like, so like the toss hands extensions? She's like, no, we need rewind QPs. I'm like, what? Okay, well, we'll do it. So we do one, we hit it, pop it down. I was like, that's good. And they're like, okay, we need to do it from this angle. We must have done 25 to 30 of each stunt. Hands ups, rewinds. And I'm like, and then they asked me to do a toss shoulders, and I said, nope, no, that's not a good idea for anybody. But yeah, Louis definitely pulled one else over on us. And I still can't walk right.
Tony, you know who you look like in that suit, right?
Do what?
Do you know who you look like?
Please tell me.
Yes. Do you remember the movie The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh yeah, I do.
Google Dynamo. Dynamo. It was like the second villain in that movie. Google that. That's who you look like.
Ben, I think I'll go ahead and take that as a compliment, because anybody with the name Dynamo must be like, like strong.
Yeah, it was good.
I'm gonna have to go watch that movie for the first time in like 25 years.
That's a great movie.
Now, Mark, that came out like 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, there's no 20 in front of it. We're all young here.
But yeah, Lori brings this up yesterday. She's like, yeah, it was me, Tony, and Josh. And those guys didn't even mention from our full out chat that they did. You were in the Wii video game. I think it's super cool. That's a great story. That's a really good story.
Yeah, I'm more afraid of that picture. That's why I don't bring it up.
Can your character be found online? Like, could we look up your character?
Actually, I've never looked. I don't know.
Oh,
sure,
that'll be next week.
Gonna,
that'll be next week. We'll find it.
I'm
we'll
sure
find
you're gonna come out somehow and pop. My video is gonna pop up, and it's gonna be my character instead of me. And I'm
challenge to anybody out there, anybody who's watching.
Oh, really?
if you have a Nintendo Wii and you have the cheerleader game, find Tony's character and send me the video of it. Send me
Okay, is
character.
that how we're gonna do this? Is this what we're gonna do?
I gotta see.
Okay.
I think it's a cool thing, Tony. I really do.
Mhm.
You're in a video game. I think it's super cool.
Mhm.
Actually, I am in a video game.
No.
I'm in 2005 March Madness.
This is Dynamo? Thanks, Ben.
He was the opera singer.
So
He was
Ben,
the opera singer.
you and Steve. Okay. Game on. I think it's Mark and I against Ben and you. Yeah.
It's the red lights and
Mm.
He was a good character in the movie.
Payback.
But seriously, I would love to see Tony's character in the. I really do though, because I think it's cool that you are forever in a video game.
Well, but it's not my face; it's a character. So I mean, you're not gonna tell it's me. It was just a character doing stunts.
You're a human emoji.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was.
Yeah, I still want to see it. Somebody please send it to me if you have it.
You know, I actually do have the game, and it's still in its packaging. I have no idea where it's at, but because I never had a Wii, and so I just threw it in a desk drawer or something. But I could try to find it. Well, actually, no, I'm not doing that for you.
Oh, was that?
And I said, no, I'm not going to try to find it for you. No way. I'm not going to give you dirt. You find it yourself.
I think that I'm trying to find the Dynamo character. Because that's. I don't think it looks like you at all, Tony. I'm not gonna.
Thank you, Steve.
I really don't. I'm not. I'm just seriously. I don't think that looks like you. You don't.
It does. There's more pictures too.
See, now, this was the Coach's Corner episode I was expecting. Oh, this is great.
it only happens in the after party.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, thank you again for coming in tonight. And everybody who watched, thank you so much. I always appreciate you, gentlemen. And I will talk to you soon. I'll have a great Memorial Day weekend. And I will see you guys next week sometime.
Sounds good, Steve. Thank you so much.
No problem, guys.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate
See
it.
you guys.
All right, that was a fun Coach's Corner episode there. As you can tell, put us together in a room, and it'll be entertaining. So thank you again to Ben Schreiber, Tony Nash, Mark Coleman, and Nicole Latham-Smith with ICE All-Stars, and my assistant at Purdue for her insight on the fifth-year rule. So just want to thank everybody again who's been tuning in, who's been supporting this. It's been a lot of fun. Really do appreciate it. One more time, really quick, just a quick shout-out to Cheer Chalk. Go to cheerchalk.us. Put in the discount code FULLOUT10 to get an additional 10% off. And again, tomorrow, my full out chat on Instagram is with Anna, formerly Richie, now Anna Fack, USA All-Girl, BYU cheerleader, UCA college staffer, now travels the world doing photography, which is super cool. Can't wait to hear about her story and everything. And so again, on the Instagram live, 1 o'clock Eastern, interview with Anna Fack. Again, everybody, thank you all very much. Stay healthy, stay safe, and have a great Memorial Day weekend.